My father always did just enough work for hire. Carpentry, house painting, driving a hearse, to be able to buy books. Hebrew, Greek, Latin, law, science, metaphysics, religion. My father loved his books, and he loved for us to read them. If I became anything at all, I owe it to my father's patience and his love of good books. And, to be honest about it, some plain hard work on my part. See, when I was about 9, my father set me to work on the hottest summer day I can ever remember, hoeing potatoes. And after I'd worked hard for several hours, I ran away from that hard work and went into the practice of law, and I've never done any work since. Why the law? Well, every 4th of July in my hometown of Kinsman, Ohio, after Squire Allen got through reading the Declaration of Independence, which we all thought he'd written because he always read it, he'd introduce some lawyer or other from the county seat. Now, I had seen the lawyer's horse and buggy over at the hotel in the morning, and I saw how nice they were, and I wondered how much money a lawyer must make. And I noticed that his boots was always real shiny, like they'd just been greased. And he'd talk real loud, and he'd wave his arms about, and the old farmers would stand there and nod their heads and say, "Mighty smart man, great man." That's why the law. Being a lawyer in Chicago in the 90s, coming into contact with malefactors of all kinds, I can tell you that the Illinois legislature was none too good in those days either. I've never known our elected representatives to be any different, excepting during a time of a great moral crusade, and then they are always worse. In Chicago, we had a lot of massage parlors, some of which were being used as fronts for houses of prostitution. It got to be so bad that the word massage came to mean, well, I imagine you can figure out what it came to mean. And to give someone a massaging meant, I expect you can figure that one out too without me spelling it out. Just to interrupt myself here for a minute. I've always felt that most lawyers, myself included, like to say more than is absolutely necessary. I remember one counsel who was defending a man on a charge that he had bitten another man's ear off during a fight. Now, there was only one witness. Counsel gets up to cross-examine. He says, "So, you mean to tell me you didn't actually see my client bite the other fellow's ear off?" "No, sir," said the witness. Now, you see, counsel could have sat down right then, but he is bound and determined to ask one more. "Well, if you didn't see my client bite the other fellow's ear off, how could you be so all-fire sure that he did bite the other fellow's ear off?" "Well, sir, I saw him spit it out." Gentlemen, my friend the prosecutor here says that this is not a race question, that race and color have nothing to do with this case, that this is merely a case of murder. I insist that there is nothing but prejudice in this case, and that if the situation were reversed, and 11 white men had shot and killed a black while defending their homes and lives against a mob of blacks, no one would have dreamed of having them indicted in this case. I know what I'm talking about, and so do you. They would have given them medals instead. 10 colored men and 1 woman are under indictment in this case, being tried by you 12 jurors. Well, you're all white, aren't you? We haven't got a colored man on this jury. Couldn't get one. Oh, one was called, but he was disqualified. You 12 white men are trying a colored man on race prejudice. Now, you needn't tell me you aren't prejudiced, because I know better. We're nothing much but a bundle of prejudices anyway. We're prejudiced against another man's color. We're prejudiced against another man's politics. We're prejudiced against another man's religion. We're prejudiced about the way they look. We're prejudiced about the way they dress. We are filled with prejudices. Now, my only hope, gentlemen of the jury, is this: that you are honest enough and strong enough and decent enough to lay aside your prejudices in this case and decide it as you ought to. Being a lawyer now is a different kettle of fish, a high art, requiring sophisticated discipline and the rigid application of scientific principles. How to pick a jury, for example. Now, if a Presbyterian enters your jury box and carefully rolls up his umbrella, let him go. See, he knows right from wrong, though he seldom finds anything right. Now, if possible, a Baptist is more hopeless than a Presbyterian. Get rid of him with as few possible words before he contaminates the others. Now, a Methodist is worth considering. They are nearer to the soil. If chance should set you down between a Baptist and a Methodist, you'll move toward the Methodist to keep warm. Either a Lutheran or a Scandinavian is unsafe. Oh, but if you got both in one, plead your client guilty and move down the docket. You see, I have never been one for organized religion or anything else that tells you what you ought to believe and what will happen to you if you don't. Fear of God or fear of anything else is not the beginning of wisdom. Better to have doubt. Doubt leads to investigation, and that's the beginning of wisdom. Of course, I'm a lawyer, and I'm supposed to have checked these things out. Ruby and I took a trip to Palestine to see where the whole thing began. While we were there, we met an Arab boatman who offered to row us out to the spot where Jesus walked on the water. All he wanted for this was $15. No wonder Jesus walked. The most religious people, the most righteous believers of all, are, of course, the fundamentalists, who believe that every word in the Bible is literally true, and they don't want the public schools or anyone else teaching anything different. Noah got 2 of every species of animal on that ark, including 1 million insects. Joshua made the sun stand still so the day could be lengthened and he could finish his battle. Balaam's ass spoke to him, probably in Hebrew. Well, many asses have spoken, but they have not been that breed of ass. William Jennings Bryan. Your Honor, when the public is concerned and demands a punishment, no matter what the offense, great or small, it thinks of only one punishment, and that is death. No one is unmindful of the public, Your Honor. I have stood here for 3 months as one might stand at the ocean trying to sweep back the tides. I hope the wind is falling and the seas are subsiding, and I believe they are. But I wish to make no false pretense to this court. The easy thing to do and the popular thing to do would be to hang Dickie Loeb and Babe Leopold. Men and women who do not think will approve. The cruel and the thoughtless will applaud. But more and more mothers and fathers who are gaining in understanding and asking questions not only about these poor boys, but about their own, they will join in no acclaim at my client's death. They would ask that the shedding of blood be stopped. Your Honor stands between the future and the past. I know The future is with me and what I stand for here. I am pleading for a time when hatred and cruelty no longer control the hearts of men, when we can learn by reason and judgment and understanding that all life is worth saving, and that mercy is the highest attribute of man.